and gentlemen, let's give another round of applause for a powerhouse woman who's on a quest to changing our society for the better, Codsi!
Dear guests, good evening. It is with great pride that my team and I welcome you tonight to honor and recognize the exceptional contribution of 31 major organizations. Through their work and commitment and the implementation of concrete measures within their organizations, they are contributing to closing the gender gap in the workplace and are inspiring models to all of us. Tonight's gala, being a first for women in governance in Toronto, please allow me to give you a bit of background about who I am. I was born in Beirut and grew up through the Civil War. At age 17, I fled the war and moved to Paris. Paris is always a good idea, they say. No parents, no money, but full of hope and ambition. I managed to put myself through school and university, and at age 22 and a half, I moved to Montreal, Canada. So you might think I have some nerve coming here and complaining about equality in decision-making bodies where my own country has so much work to do. But I would argue that this is precisely why my quest for peace and justice, and equality, of course, is so deeply rooted within me, and why I am not prepared to give up this fight. The current pool of talented women in the workforce with business skills, experience, and education far exceeds their representation at the highest levels. In an attempt to bridge that gap, I have founded Women in Governance in 2010. 2 years ago, as Fabienne was mentioning, my daughter became a lawyer, my son became a banker, so I chose to leave my career as an executive VP of a medical expertise firm and dedicate my life to this cause full-time. Now, as the positive impact of gender diversity is increasingly recognized, companies are seeking to reap the rewards of equal representation of men and women across their organizations. But to aspire to close a gap, you must first know the magnitude of it and understand its root causes. Many companies don't have clear data on the diversity of their workforce and cannot accurately identify problems or come up with solutions. This is where Women in Governance Parity Certification comes into play. With 31 major organizations that have been certified in 2018 from bronze to platinum, this initiative has had an impact on more than 258,000 employees across our country. With our support, Canadian organizations have successfully increased the representation of women in sectors where they have historically been underrepresented, as well as in senior management positions. This innovative certification not only evaluates parity in decision-making bodies, but it also assesses the organization's commitment to policies and procedures that will enable the advancement of women at all levels of the hierarchy, creating a robust pipeline of female talent. You may have heard me this morning in a live interview at BNN Bloomberg, but I want to remind you that although women are 51% of the population, 60% of university graduates, 80% of buying decision-making, they're less than 5% of CEOs, and not one of the TSX 60 companies has a female CEO. Board statistics are also alarming, with 14% of women overall, a little over 20% if you focus on FP 500 companies. We still have a long way to go. Now, how do we compare with other countries? Well, we're not doing very well. The Americans are struggling just as much, if that can be of consolation. But if we compare ourselves to Europe, for instance, we're behind. Several European countries have adopted quotas for women on boards, which yielded instant results. And believe me, none of these companies crumbled when women joined their boards. Quite the contrary, actually. And as Françoise Giroud, the famous French philosopher, used to say, the day an incompetent woman will be nominated in an important role, we will have reached equality. Thank you. In 2010, at the time I founded Women in Governance, France and Canada both had 12% of women on boards. Today, France has more than 40% thanks to the Copé-Zimmermann legislation that is double Canada's numbers. In Quebec, under Jean Charest, more than a decade ago, legislation required 50% of women on the boards of Quebec's crown corporations. The target was achieved within less than 5 years, moving from 27% to 51%. In Rwanda, after the Civil War, gender equality was embedded within the constitution, and as a result, Rwanda has achieved parity on their corporate boards and ranks first in the world out of 190 countries for women parliamentarians. Canada is number 59. This is proof that when we legislate, we find women. When we don't legislate, we find excuses. To all chairmen who say they try, thank you. To all chairmen who said they tried to find women but couldn't, please send me an email. But also, to the women who do get a call, please don't pass the opportunity by saying you're not ready. They wouldn't have called you if you weren't ready, so just go. In Canada today, 211 publicly traded companies have 0 women on their board. We have asked Justin Trudeau to send polite but firm letters to all those non-progressive chairmen because it is 2019. We are hopeful that he will say yes. In conclusion, to achieve concrete results, Canadian companies must make a clear commitment towards parity, not only for ethical reasons, but also with an objective of improving their financial performance. And we all want to live in a prosperous country. Organizations must monitor and be transparent about their targets and results, and pay considerable attention to developing a sufficient number of women at the lower levels of the company in order to have a critical mass at the executive level. We have to keep the conversation going because it's simply not embedded yet. Women in Governance Parity Certification can support you on the path to equality. We hope you all join us. Thank you.